I love this. We'll get started on this fun news day with this one fun news. Obviously, there's not a lot of fun news beyond that, but this is fun. Elon is refusing to make a deal with Swedish unions and is now learning about sympathy strikes in the Nordic labor model. This is insanity squared. Tesla strike, killing blow for Tesla. The cars do not get new license plates. If metal strike will stop new Tesla cars from being put into service, the reason is the sympathy measure that blocks Post-Nord's handling of mail to Tesla. He goes, this is insane. Yeah. My man is completely unfamiliar with the fact that there can be strikes on one industry or one company across multiple different vectors. It's very normal. That's how unions are supposed to work. But of course, if you're some fucking apartheid, yeah, If Metal is the name of the union. I know. Aren't they also the guys who unionized? If Metal is, I think, like, isn't IF Metal the German union as well, or am I crazy? Or I guess it's a metal trade union in Sweden. The German one has a similar name too. No, that's IG Metal. Okay, my bad. If Metal Stasida is a trade union in Sweden, and the German one is IG Metal. And I remember because they are the dominant metalworkers union, and they wanted to actually unionize YouTubers, if I remember correctly. Industrial Union Metal is transliteration. Swedish IF Metal Union says they have funds to strike for 500 years. 500 years. Yeah. I don't know exactly. Dude. I don't know is the Swedish model the one that also directly contributes to, like, actually, I'm not going to speak on it. I don't know. I think, like, they have insane pull. Porsche's unionized under IG Metall. Yeah. Membership density of 80%. On formation, it had 337,000 members, but it fell steadily to 241,000. IF Metals represents around 11,500 workplaces. 21% are women, 15% are under 30 years of age, in a variety of sectors, including mechanical engineering and the plastics industry, the building material industry, the mining sector, the ironwork sector, the textile industry, including clothing, automobile repair shops, disabled workers doing similar tasks within government-sponsored projects, including Sam Hall. They're the second largest affiliate of the Swedish Trade Union Confederation. Yeah. Good stuff. More power to them. Boss sells seething over worker chads. That's funny. Illegal in most other countries. This is a sympathy strike. I love that. It makes me happy. This doubly makes me happy because, one, it's solidarity in action. Two, it shows the effectiveness of unions in making demands. And last but not least, perhaps one of the more important reasons also, is that it pisses off Elon Musk. And I fucking love that, personally. Sweden is a very interesting country that still absolutely rests on the laurels of, like, the democratic socialist era that they had. Like, straight up. You know how we always talk about the New Deal and FDR's America and how all of the gains made during that era are basically why America has, like, some semblance of even development, which it doesn't anymore, but, like, did for years and years. Yes, R.I.P. Olof Palme, but, like, the Swedish democratic socialism era was so incredibly powerful. Obviously, it also spells trouble for social democracies in general, because you look at Sweden now, but why don't you like Elon? He's brought good to this world. Yeah, dude. Totally. Shut up, Marat. Shut up, bitch. You're not allowed to speak. The Hamnarbetareförbundet, the dock workers union, won't unload Teslas. Painters union won't do the paint jobs. There's a lot of different sectors in it. The socialists were right. Social democracy is always doomed to slide backwards to fascism. Yes, of course. I mean, mysterious cosmic ray observed in Utah. Explain that, Marat. You can't. He can't. He won't, actually. It's classified. Saw this doing the rounds and thought of your stream stories. What is this?
When I was 15 years old, I started my first fucking job. Like many of you motherfuckers probably did too. Except mine was a little more fucked up. I worked at something called a horse insemination plant.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I've done this. I mean, not me personally, but I've seen it happen.
Every goddamn day, I would get up in the morning and I'd go to this fucking barn and I'd have to walk down a line with a horse on either goddamn side.
Okay, I don't want to watch the rest of this, but yeah, you get the idea. He just jerks off horses for a living. See what's going on with Josh Giddey on OKC? Yes, I have. Josh Giddey, Australian alleged pedophile point guard. I did see it. It was all over my timeline this morning. I don't know how old the girl is. But it seems like she's very young. They call him Josh Giddey on Twitter. Yeah. The worst dudes discuss the Israel-Palestine conflict. Bro, I don't know if I want to watch this, man. I don't know if I want to watch this, especially when Norm Finkelstein is about to fucking grace the timeline today with a Piers Morgan uncensored interview. You know what I mean? That's my Super Bowl. That's my Thanksgiving turkey bowl. You know what I mean? She's above 16 and the age of consent is 16 in Oklahoma. God damn, brother. That is some crazy ass bullshit. It's also crazy because, like, literally half the timeline, immediately after it came out that she was, like, underage, half the fucking timeline started being like, damn, bro, he had good taste. And I was just like, dude, you're a pedophile. You're a pedophilic person. Until I found out half of those NBA accounts are literally, like, 16 themselves. But still. Never gonna dodge the Willie Mack accusations. He's a shooting guard. My bad. Not point guard. Shooting guard. Can we stop mentioning this fucking loser? Jesus Christ. It's enough. Today's my birthday. Happy birthday. Anyway, yeah. Tate just took the most left take that we would agree to compete. To be honest, but fuck him anyway. Yeah, that's part of the reason why I don't want to watch it, because, like, he's gonna say some shit that I agree with, and then it's just gonna frustrate me. You know what I mean? Are we gonna have some fun today? Yeah. German Thanksgiving is a tradition. What is it?
Real quick, just want to say happy Thanksgiving to you all. Hope you had a good one today. I thought I wasn't gonna miss this. I thought I was gonna get it out there too late, but I'm thankful for you. Let's just get it out there, right? That's why I made this video. I am thankful for you, and I had a great turkey day. Hope you did too. Hope you ate plenty of turkey. Hope you had plenty of sausages, plenty of bacon, plenty of ham. All the things that we love to have during our Thanksgiving feasts. I had plenty of it today. I'm thankful for you. I'll see you soon. Hey, everybody, real quick. Just want to say happy Thanksgiving to you all.
All that cake he had went right to his cake, if you know what I mean. Classic. This is why so many of you are Germaniacs. It's, like, clear to me. Gum Tree got him. I know, dude. I know. What a sad state of affairs. Luffy's hat on the One Piece balloon got burst at the Thanksgiving parade.
Oh, shoot. Oh, no. Oh, no.
This makes me so sad, bro. This is my 9/11? Yeah.
No. This is his first parade. No.
Bucket hat Luffy go kind of hard, though. This is what I mean, dude. Zoomers have no respect.
Oh, no, it's going to... Oh.
Yeah. Bucket hat is Trafalgar Law. Well, I guess not, really. He has like a weird... He doesn't even have a bucket hat. He has a different kind of hat, but... There's riots in Dublin. I can hear explosions of helicopters and armed police are out. I heard that there's like race riots or some shit happening. These fucking balloons are never a good idea. Yeah, I don't really care about the Thanksgiving parade at all. But a lot of funny memes have occurred as a consequence of that. For example, there's a lot of people protesting, talking about how Thanksgiving is a celebration of genocide back then, and there's a genocide currently happening. Now, of course, it's a very serious thing to mention. However, when you put it in front of a Despicable Me banner, in front of fucking Minions, for example, all of a sudden it just kind of seems like the Minions participated in the genocide, which is, of course, not even wrong. I mean, I guess they technically do because they're like evil, right? They work with like all of the evil. Bro doesn't know what's going on. Bro's just thinking banana. Who? Yeah, we're going to talk about Melissa Barrera. Yeah, Minions definitely participated in the Nakba. I'm almost certain. Never asked the Minions what they were doing. Never asked the Minions what they were doing about, between 1941 and 1945, but also don't ask the Minions what they were doing during the Nakba. I know. They were sending illicit arms after the armistice. They were sending illegal arms from Czechoslovakia into Israel. That's right. That's what the fuck they were doing. I'll tell you what. That's a banger tweet, actually. I'm going to fucking tweet this. I'm going to say that. It was mid. Don't. Why? Was it? Is it mid? Actually, the Minions were stuck in the Arctic between 1920s and 1950. They said it in the first Minions movie. Oh. Yeah, nothing bad happened after 1950, so. Banger tweeted. I think I have a lot of anti-intellectuals in here, okay? I'm Palestinian and I laughed. It's not mid. Where were the Minions during the Tulsa massacre? Good question. You know what they were doing. They were the reason why the racist, the white supremacist forces were able to utilize a plane for the first time ever when they were dropping munitions on top of civilian territory in the United States of America, as a matter of fact. By Arctic, they mean southern Argentina. Where were they during the Confederacy? Defending slavers. Duh. Yes. I mean, this is canon. I've never seen a single fucking piece of Despicable Me franchise at all. But I know that the Minions 100% were doing all of those things. The Minions are supposed to be... What is this? What the fuck? Who did the Minions serve from 1933 to 1945?
Mr. Dave, why exactly do Minions love bananas so much?
Wait, they love bananas? Oh, that also makes sense. Oh, fuck. All right, let's...
All voices. And so I'm joined now by Professor Norman Finkelstein. Professor, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
I got to do this.
I appreciate it.
you
Like I said, a lot of people wanted me to interview. You yourself
Uh-oh.
tweeted that we hadn't done it. So here we are. I'm glad about it. I think you're an influential voice. And you've obviously been very vocal about this since it all kicked off. I want to take you back.
It's a Thanksgiving
if I
miracle
may,
for me.
to October the 7th, because action to what happened on October
Immediately
the 7th
he's like, you don't condemn
incensed
Hamas.
many people. You posted on Substack a piece about what had happened on the day, and it included this. For the past 20 years, the people of Gaza, half of whom are children, have been immured in a concentration camp. Today, they breach the camp's walls. If we honour John Brown's armed resistance to slavery, if we honour the Jews who revolted in the Warsaw Ghetto, the moral consistency commands that we honour the heroic resistance in Gaza. I, for one, will never begrudge. On the contrary, it warms every fibre of my soul. The scenes of Gaza's smiling children as their arrogant Jewish supremacist
This is why I
oppressors
said
have
Norm is a
finally
little
been
bit
humbled.
too extra
And you ended by
for
saying
me.
the stars above in heaven are looking kindly down. Glory, glory, hallelujah. The souls of Gaza go marching on. With the benefit of a few weeks now, do you regret the tone of that initial response to what happened?
No.
My initial response was to the initial news stories. You will recall, I'm sure, that initially what we were informed was that there was a breakout from Gaza concentration camp, that approximately 1,500 people had broken out, and that about 50
It is too
people,
much.
that was
I
the
agree.
initial number that was given, approximately 50
He
Israelis
talked about this
were
in
killed.
he talked about this in
The
great
number
detail.
gradually grew, went from 50. A couple of days later, it went to 100. And I'm sure you'll remember the number didn't reach 1,400 until about 10 days later. Initially, it was reasonable, excuse me, it was reasonable to assume that people had been killed in a firefight, which was not the case, at least not fully the case. So my initial reaction was to the initial news stories. By the third or fourth day, I was clearly compelled to rethink my initial statements and try to make sense of what was clearly a moral quandary. And at that point,
I want to pause so bad.
revised my, not revised, but I considered my judgment on the basis of the new information that was available.
Okay.
And my own sense, yes, go ahead.
I just want to look. I've done a timeline for my own benefit based on what happened that day. We know the attacks began at 6:30 in the morning. We know that at 11:18 a.m., Israel confirmed, as you say, 40 dead, 700 injured. At 11:35, Benjamin Netanyahu said we are at war. At 12:30 that day, at lunchtime, I tweeted horrifying and appalling scenes from Israel. This murderous, indiscriminate Hamas terror attack on Israeli people is shameful and indefensible. By 4:17, Israel said 100 were dead at least, 985 wounded. Civilian hostages have been taken. At 4 o'clock, a little later than that, around the same time, footage is released of the attack reporting that 3,000 bombs and firearms have been fired off by Hamas. Civilians have been killed.
He has a really interesting take on this process that I don't fully agree with, but I do understand where he's coming from. And I don't think Piers will allow him to talk about it from like the perspective of Nat Turner and W.B. Du Bois and others who looked at slave rebellions, Haitian Revolution, and how violent it was, the retaliatory actions, how barbaric and violent those actions were.
2 or 3 days, anyone had a clue.
I'm speaking over Piers because he's just like, this is his opportunity to just like bully Norm over his initial writing.
And I just don't understand why someone as scholarly as you, as expert in this region, in this conflict as you are, why your response would be that for several days, one of glorifying in the in what you called heroic resistance.
The boys.
Whereas mine, and I've always tried to be fair-minded about
the boys.
This conflict and reported it for CNN and tried to be fair and accurate as and when I've seen it. That I, at midday,
I couldn't listen to the whole TrueAnon interview. It's way too fucking long, but I listened to parts of it.
And horrifying and
also, I've been trying to get Brace to help me connect with Norm for weeks now.
You weren't aware, with great respect, about the scale of what was going on.
Okay, Piers, let me begin by saying I want to have a civil conversation, and I'm going to do my darndest to remain faithful to the facts and faithful to truth. I'll do my darndest not to exaggerate. The first thing I have to say is I don't tweet. I've never been on Twitter. I have 3 young tech people who I send statements to, and then they make the decision where to place it on Substack, on Twitter, and so forth. Okay, I just want to clear that up. I made one statement on the first day on the basis of the information that was available to me. The information
I think Piers is so funny to be like,
people had been killed.
Elon,
now,
you also said it was clear from what's going on. You don't understand. This man is a fucking Omega Boomer. He only has a landline. He probably had no fucking clue what was going on.
That's not true.
As the numbers, okay,
like,
it's just not true.
You and I, we are online all the time. So our assessment is like, we have round-the-clock updates on what's going on. He fucking doesn't. He is a landline.
You want me to believe you when you say you weren't aware of the scale of...
But again, this part is like silly, irrelevant bullshit. Come on. Move on. This is stupid.
Okay.
Move on.
Piers.
Get to like actual, get to the meat of the argument.
I'm not going to force you to believe it, and I'm not going to even try to impose my will. I'm simply saying, as a factual matter, speaking for myself, I was not aware that the numbers had been beyond 50 when I made that statement. I will further state that to my knowledge, I could be mistaken, that I did not make another statement.
Critics have labeled Finkelstein Poison a self-hating Jew?
And I admit, I have said to you, it was a moral quandary for me. And I said in many interviews.
That's insane.
That it was, for me, a very burdened moment.
Murad is the one who called it, by the way.
I wasn't entirely confident in my moral judgment. And it was at that point that I started to look back at what the white abolitionists had to say when Nat Turner carried out a slave rebellion and many whites were hacked to death, children were beheaded, and I wanted to see, because I was not confident of my moral judgment, I wanted to see what did the white abolitionists, those who fought against slavery, had to say. And I looked at what William Lloyd Garrison, probably the most famous of the white abolitionists, and he said, horrible things happened during Nat Turner's rebellion, but if you read his statement, he wouldn't condemn Nat Turner or Nat Turner's.
All right, well, let me ask you.
Confederates.
Okay, so let me ask you. Oh, let me ask you. Okay, listen, I've heard you say this before, that analogy. That's fine. But let me ask you, given you now know the scale of what happened, given you know 1,200 people were killed, including 800 or so completely innocent civilians. We know that children were killed, that grandmothers were killed, and their deaths FaceTime to their families. We know that over 200 people were kidnapped and taken hostage. Given you know the full scale of this attack, I've asked a lot of guests these two questions. And
all right, come on, get in there.
Answer.
Do you
One,
condemn
would you
Hamas?
categorize it as a terror attack? And secondly, would you condemn Hamas for what they did?
My view is as follows. Number one, as far as the evidence shows now, atrocities occurred on October 7th. The magnitude of the atrocities and the types of atrocities, for example, were children beheaded, were women raped, that remains, so far as I can tell from the evidence, an open question. However, that there were atrocities that occurred, my answer is yes. Number two, that's a factual question. Then there's
well, the question was it a
question.
terror attack?
Yeah. Well, atrocities, it seems to me, denotes a terror attack.
Okay, thank you.
That's what atrocities are.
Thank you.
Okay. So, number two, that's the factual question. And then there is the legal question. As a matter of law, it seems unquestionable that the people who perpetrated these atrocities would be prosecuted and convicted in a court of law. However, I would say on the legal question, I should think that there would be some mercy shown because those who carried out the atrocities were concentration camp inmates. Number three, which I think is the one that concerns you the most, is the moral question. And at a moral level, my view is, my basic precept, we may disagree, my basic precept is that there but for the grace of God go I. That is to say, I'm very reluctant to condemn people who are in a position or in a condition such that were I in that position or condition, I'm not sure what I would do. Now, the 1,500 young men who burst the gates of Gaza, they were born into a concentration camp. They lived for 2 decades in a concentration camp. They had no past, they had no present, they had no future, they had no jobs. Half of them, according to humanitarian organizations, suffered from what's called severe food insecurity. And then on top of that, as I'm sure you know, Pierce, because you keep up with the news, periodically Israel goes into Gaza and it mows the lawn. And you know what Mo's the law means. It means a high-tech massacre in Gaza. In 2008-9, Operation Cast Lead. 2012, Operation Pillar of Defense. 2014, Operation Protective Edge. And in each of these high-tech massacres visited the people of Gaza, in some cases hundreds, in some cases thousands of Palestinians are killed.
Okay, and let me ask you.
In fact, just in
Well, let me ask you on that point.
In light of,
And
I
on
want
that
to
point,
finish your,
I've got one question
yeah.
about that. In that period,
Yes.
In that period, and by the way, I've been condemnatory of some of the things you've just talked about publicly. I've tweeted my condemnation of some of these things.
Condemnation.
I've tried to shine a light on the plight of the Palestinians for many, many years, and I feel that the oppression of the Palestinian people for many decades has been absolutely outrageous. So on that, we can completely agree. But when it comes to what you're saying here, it seems to me what you're trying to paint is a picture of some kind of moral justification for what Hamas did. And that's where you lose me, because I don't see why there could be anyone who can see the scale of what Hamas did on October the 7th and not simply condemn it out of hand. You may also want to condemn some of the response by Israel. That's completely normal. I would say that there are serious question marks about the proportionality of what they've been doing.
There's a difference between calling one a terror attack unconditionally and then saying there's question marks on the other one,
what
though.
What happened on October the 7th was a disgusting terror attack worthy of condemnation. Then for me, I find it very hard to then respect anyone's demand for people to condemn Israel and their response.
Piers, I'm trying to be candid with you. Number one, I appreciate your humanity. I do. I don't know you from Adam. I'm not a TV or a television or a social media kind of person. I'm a book person. I'm old-fashioned. However, I do recall that when that famous moment when Susan Boyle appeared on Britain's Got Talent, and I remember the camera turning to you, focusing on you. I can see it in my mind's eye. I saw your eyes narrow, and suddenly the humanity in you came up. Here is this obscure woman whose talent had gone unrecognized. And if I can speak to that same program, for me, the most poignant moment, the one I carry with me since that moment,
He's such a fucking boomer, dude.
Simon
Oh my God.
Cowell asked Susan Boyle, well, why haven't you been discovered yet? And she replied, because I haven't been given a chance. And that's how I feel about the people of Gaza. That's how I feel about those young men in Gaza. You ask me why I won't condemn them. Because those young men were born into a concentration camp. They were born into among the most dense populated places on God's earth. Half of the population of Gaza is children. 70% are refugees who were expelled from Israel in 1948 and their descendants. 70% of Gaza's youth have no jobs, no future, no nothing. They are Susan Boyle times 10,000.
Oh, God.
Never given a chance. And as things looked the night before October 7th, when the question of Gaza was disappearing from the public stage, I will admit to you, Piers, I myself had given up on Gaza. In 2020, I decided it's hopeless, it's pointless, I only have a finite number of years left in my life, and it's time for me to move on. And I'll tell you, that was a wrenching decision on my part, because I knew I was abandoning the people who for 15 years I had devoted my life to chronicling every detail of the horror that had been inflicted on those people. And I gave up on them.
Okay.
And that meant if I gave up, they had no future because I was the last chronicler.
Okay, but what I would say,
Gaza.
All right, but what
I have the only book
but Professor,
that's been written on the subject.
Let me respond.
He's not wrong, by the way. He is literally right. He dedicated his entire life to this.
People in Israel would say, and what Jewish people would say, particularly who live in Israel, is that they were facing a constant barrage of rockets from Hamas, that Hamas won political power in 2005-06, that they were given a huge amount of money and could have done whatever they wanted with that money.
This is where you see the Hasbro talking points get eviscerated by my man. This is like, he's going to destroy
the
this.
Israelis over that period.
None of this
And the
fucking
Israelis,
Susan Boyle
you're right,
shit.
They responded they have a far superior military, and they responded in the way that they did, and this cycle has been going on in repeat and repeat and repeat. But where you and I differ about this is that I think what happened on October the 7th was just on a different scale to anything we've seen and the way it was carried out. And I just don't think saying that people who have been oppressed, which they undoubtedly were for many years, that justifies them committing that act of terror. But let's take a break. Let's come back after the break and discuss this more.
God damn it. Okay. God damn it. He literally fucking, he was just about to let him cook. He was just about to let him cook. This is the part. This is the part where it was supposed to be like him popping off. Yeah. So Piers does this every single time. He will have a pro-Palestinian voice on. He will bully him in the first half, like ritualistically fucking, you know, pump him full of as many talking points as possible to be like, yeah, I mean, I did this myself. I know from my own personal experience, like, you called me a baboon in a suit, you know, like irrelevant bullshit. And you have to do everything you can to just stay on message, right? He let Norm talk for sure, but he set the conditions. He set the boundaries of what the conversation should be around, and that is still silly. And then he fucking hits him with like a good question. Finally, a good retaliation. Something that Norm can like talk about, which is you know, he's in the pocket there. And instead of letting Norm cook, he goes boom, fucking cut to commercial break. Now the second half of this interview will be very different. Cenk did it there though. Please, I don't know about the Shmuley debate. No. He let Shmuley pop off on Cenk in that conversation as well. They literally lowered Cenk's audio. And let Shmuley unload on him and say, like, what happens during the breaks? Nothing. I don't even talk to him during the breaks. Does he genuinely not have access to a computer and mobile? This is a serious question. Oh, yeah, 100%. Elent News. I'm telling you right now, as someone who has been trying to contact him for the past month, he does not.
Professor, just to round off what we've just been discussing.
He literally doesn't have anything.
Given that you wrote that Substack, and you want me to believe...
Bro, he doesn't even have a smartphone. He has a landline.
Completely oblivious to the reality of what had happened here and the scale of it. But given you're not now oblivious to that, why have you not removed that Substack, given the language is so clearly offensive to people? And you based it, by your own words, on a false premise about what had happened.
You know, Piers,
how's he writing on Substack? He dictates, and then his assistants write for him.
When I was talking to some friends from the UK, I was warned you would ask that question. I'll honestly tell you, I never fear the truth. I don't. I feel the truth is a very powerful weapon on the side of the oppressed. I never fear it. Now, I'm going to give you the answer. Again, you can or can't disagree with me or believe me. I was tempted to remove it. I was tempted to, quote unquote, protect myself. I didn't remove it because I thought that's intellectually dishonest. I wrote that statement. It's part of the historical record. It's part of the documentary.
We're back to him
record,
getting
and I
fucking
shouldn't do
yelled out.
what Stalin used to do. So when he published photographs of the Bolshevik Revolution, he would take Trotsky's picture out.
Okay, but
That's the image.
So you won't delete it.
That's the image that stuck to me.
You haven't deleted it, but do you regret it?
Do I regret what?
Do you regret the contents of that Substack, given that you now know what really happened?
Yes, if it can be misconstrued to mean that I wrote that with full knowledge of what happened, of course I regret it.
Okay.
However, it remains part of the record. And as a serious
Norm has
scholar,
the same brain
I'm not
disease
a
that I
great
do.
Scholar. I'm not in the ranks of the great British historians, but I take scholarship seriously.
He's very stubborn.
I did not want to denature, to falsify.
He's very proud, and he doesn't shut the fuck up about whatever tangent that is like
Let me ask you.
that has him portrayed in a bad light.
Okay, that's fair. Listen, that's your decision. You are the son of.
He can't
two
stop. He
people
can't.
who
I know what he's
survived
doing
the
here.
Holocaust,
I'm
who
the
were
same
both in
way.
concentration
But you
camps.
have to fucking move back. You have to move
you're
away
a
from
Jewish
this.
man.
It's stupid.
And you know
Unproductive. Change the fucking
how
subject.
incendiary that Substack has proven to be with Jewish people around the world, who many of whom have felt this is the nearest thing to the Holocaust of World War II that they've endured. What your parents went through, being revisited on them in these.
He asked a question
kibbutzim
before the
in
ad break,
October
and it went away. It's gone.
What do you feel about them? I mean, how would your parents have felt about you literally on the day that this happened, talking about heroic resistance, talking about that you will never begrudge the scenes, that the stars in heaven are looking kindly down, glory, glory, the souls of Gaza go marching on. How would your parents have felt about that, coming out of concentration camps, surviving the Holocaust of World War II?
Oh, he's going to dunk on this. This is a good one.
Well, first of all, anything I write
with my parents
I have
in
my
mind.
parents looking at the screen behind me over my shoulders.
Yeah.
In a metaphorical sense. I am very conscious every moment of my existence. Every moment of my existence goes back to the martyrdom of my family. So it's not as if suddenly you're posing a question to me that never occurred to me. Quite the contrary.
His parents are Holocaust survivors, Chatter. That's why it's relevant.
30 years
That's why it's relevant to the story.
I need the moral validation that came from my parents' martyrdom and the extermination of their family. How would my parents have reacted? My guess is if on the first day they heard that inmates in a concentration camp burst its gates, I think my parents would be very pleased at that fact. As the events became clearer, my guess, but this is pure speculation, my guess is my parents would go out with their hearts.
Yeah, they were in the Warsaw Ghetto, dude. I mean, come on.
To those who burst the gates of the concentration camp and whose lives were destroyed. Now, you will say to me, completely legitimately, you would say, well, what would your parents feel about the innocents who were slaughtered in the atrocities on that day?
Oh, God, don't go into how they hate Germans,
please.
You
as close
please don't talk about how
as I could give.
Please don't talk about how your parents still hate Germans or hated Germans.
I once asked my late mother.
Oh, God.
I said to her, what was your feeling when you heard that the German cities were being terror bombed during World War II?
He's gonna
the carpet bombing of the German cities targeting civilians. What was your feeling? And my mother's response to me was, quote, our feeling was, if we're going to die, we're going to take some of them with us. Now, that's not the most morally elevated statement. I agree. And do I wish my mother had and my father had a heightened sensitivity to German civilian life? I suppose I would wish it. But I will tell you, Piers, to the last day of my parents' life, it was unthinkable that they would have a kind word to say about Germans. And it was unthinkable that I would ever quarrel with them on that point.
Okay.
I accepted that given their life experience, they had the right to hate the people who destroyed their lives.
Okay.
And the people
Professor
of
Finkelstein.
Gaza have the right to hate the people who destroyed their lives.
Professor Finkelstein, thank you for that answer. And I don't mean to cut you off. We've got another guest waiting to respond to what
your
we've been
guest.
discussing. I'd like to get you back on. I feel like we've had a good
No!
conversation. I don't agree
Dude, that's
with you
it?
about some
God
of it.
damn it, I
obviously,
gotta
let's
have
be
this man
clear.
on. I have to
But I
have him
respect
on.
the tone
Holy
that you've
moly,
adopted
come
for
on,
the
FaZe
interview, and I'd like
Apex.
to explore more of this with you another time.
We gotta have FaZe Finkel on,
I
dude.
want to
This
just
is
say one last word. Everybody warned me you wouldn't let me speak, that you would speak over me, you would stop me. I want everybody to know you are eminently fair, you are decent, and you are that same human being whose eyes narrowed as Susan Boyle began to perform.
Okay.
You have that humanity,
The baboon
and
in
I
a
deeply
suit.
respect it.
Thank you. Professor, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much. Well, on says the next, Douglas Murray rejoins me live from
Dude,
his,
come
response-
on. He went to have Douglas Murray on after Norm Finkelstein. Dude, that's insane, dude. That is insane. Norm, you have to stop being so fucking stubborn, my man. I love you, but and I don't even agree with a lot of the things that you've said, especially about like, modern identity politics, but like he literally gets followed. He literally gets followed by a straight up British Nazi. Like, oh my God. Okay, so here's the issue. Here's the issue with this. The issue with this is that like Norm he's incredible in one issue and one issue only. That is being one of the best, most well-versed scholars on the history of Palestinians and the Palestinian plight, specifically contemporary Palestinian plight. Oh my God, this guy is still begging me to talk about the Rainbow Bridge. Brother, what do you mean? It was a fucking car crash, it seems. Do you want me to cover every car crash that occurs? I don't understand what you want from me. Are you a mobile chatter who still is like, you what happened? Did you like watch the Fox News coverage immediately after and then threw your phone into a ditch and didn't see any of the updates? Stop trying to tweet at Norm. Send him a letter via carrier pigeon. Anyway, okay, listen. Norm is very stubborn. He pops off. He says a lot of stuff that like lends itself to being misconstrued. I see that in my heart of hearts. I know how that works. I've done things like that time and time again. Obviously, America Deserved 9/11 was a famous moment of such sorts. Hassan optics cuck. No, I am literally an optics cuck in the sense that I have been ridiculed and bullied time and time again in passionate moments in things that I've said. Now, of course, if given the bandwidth, I can describe my position and elaborate, but a short, quick, piffy interview with Piers Morgan is not that moment. Now, the issue here is Piers just kind of kept this conversation completely around like Norm's October 7th Substack, I guess, which I haven't even fucking read, but I assume, and I will be like, he is a very angry person. He's a very stubborn person. He is a very, why do you bring up 9/11 every day? This is like the fourth time of you bringing it up. Sorry, I should only bring up fourth day in a row. Kind of weird. You're right. I should only bring up 9/11 in the context that you think is appropriate. How are you a 33-month subscriber and you just come in here and say dumb shit like that? I mean, honestly, you're a 33-month subscriber. What do you mean? Why do you always bring up 9/11 every day? Yeah. Sorry I hit more than the allotted 3 9/11 mentions of the week on the fourth one. Hate the stream when we watch Ben for like 3 hours, but say you're hot and strong and sexy. Thank you. Anyway, as I was saying, his I believe him when he says he has no access to the information at the time, unlike on the day of when he wrote his Substack and he just like wrote all that. Because the thing is, you can say many things about Norm Finkelstein, but you cannot call him a liar. Okay? Why they hating you right now on Twitter? Brother, they hating me right now on Twitter every fucking day. So it's not new. What do you mean? I don't know if you know this, but like Twitter is basically 4chan now. So Norm Finkelstein is not online. He's not an online person. He probably didn't have up-to-date information on what the fuck was going on. He probably waited to write his opinion on the matter. But having said that, you can say he's brash. You can say he's rude. You can say he's too proud. You can say he's too stubborn. These are all correct, right? But you can't say he's dishonest. So I do believe him. He has a very strong track record of being honest to a fault and also rude. So when he says like, yeah, I didn't know what the fuck was going on the day beyond like what I thought was happening, I believe him. There's no reason for me to not believe him. Especially because like he says shit all the time. He's duked it out with BDS back in the day and like lost many allies in the Palestinian cause due to him criticizing boycott, divestment, and sanctions. Like if he believes something, he will literally go all the way. You know what I mean? He will just go all the way. He doesn't stop. I didn't realize it was like that. Now I just go on there for the laughs. Right. It took a while for the info to fold out. It was probably best you weren't live that day or you to have some clips. Yeah, probably. But it sucks that like the entire conversation, you have like an eminent Palestine scholar, right? Who is certainly very controversial, but his work speaks for itself, right? All of his footnotes, everything that he has, all of the work that he's put in to his research, and all you have back and forth is over his like silly ass fucking Substack. Like, come on, Substack post. People who turn around and make this out to be like the most important subject matter that needs to be discussed endlessly, in my opinion, are doing it to engage in propaganda. It is an intellectually incurious thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, unless you're taking a photo of me? Oh. Unless, like, you know what it's like? It's like having Noam Chomsky on to talk about fucking, I don't know, manufacturing consent or any number of different things that he's written, right? And then instead of talking to him about all of these things or even like linguistics, right? You immediately go, remember when you said that you should wait until we find out about the real numbers of the Khmer Rouge in like whichever, you know, multiple fucking half a century ago? Like you're not serious at that point. You're just there to like shit smear. Obviously, Piers is very good at doing that in a way where it doesn't come across like he's doing it. It doesn't come across like he's just moving the conversation away to a position that is like moving the conversation away to a position that is more favorable to whatever he wants to talk about. But talking to modern MLK about his infidelity, yeah. That's why Bassam did the best job, because he was so good at deflecting. I think Bassam is a trained media figure. That's why it showed. I think I have, unlike Norm, for example, I think I have a little bit more media training myself. I know how that stuff operates because I myself am a media person and not a fucking scholar. So I can shift the conversation back and reprioritize the talking points, and keep the interview on track and not let it go off the rails, or allow it to stay on the track that Piers wants it to stay on. And that's unfortunately what happened with Norm. Would you say that Norm has a bit of an ego thing going on? If you don't know anything about Norm Finkelstein, maybe you think he has a bit of an ego thing going on, but this is exactly how he's been. And this is his moment of like vindication after decades and decades and decades of his endless coverage, where he's been blacklisted, completely cast aside, shunned by academics, partially because he doesn't play the song and dance at all. But he's definitely people mix up conviction and ego a lot, is a good way to look at it. He is incredibly stubborn to a fault, but he's right. He's right, and he has been right. He has been right all along. There are things that he's wrong on, but on the issue of Palestine, he's right. All right. Qatar announces when Israel-Hamas truce will begin. We're going to talk about that right now, and then I'm going to go pee right now. And also the real announcement is that at the top of the hour there's a 3-minute ad break. Okay, here.
The beginning of the pause will be 7 a.m. Friday, the 24th of November, and it will last, of course, as agreed, for 4 days. And the first batch of civilians to be released from Gaza will be around 4 p.m. of the same day. They will be 13 in number, all women and children, and those hostages who are from the same families will be put together within the same patch.
CNN's Becky Anderson, who was in that press conference, asked multiple great questions. Becky, I think one of the key ones that you asked was, what happens if one side breaches this agreement? What is the result of that? What stood out to you about the answer from the Qatari official?
It was an interesting answer, wasn't it? He said this has to be a cessation of hostilities completely on both sides, on the ground and for periods of time in the air. And he made it very clear when asked about drones in the air, surveillance drones in the air. He said specifically during the period of the hostages being released, there would be no surveillance drones flown. And we know, because we've had two, what we might call proof of concept episodes where we've seen two sets of hostages released, of course, the American mother and her 17-year-old daughter some weeks ago, and then two elderly Israeli citizens. We know that there were drones in the air at the time, and what he suggested is that can be very confusing. It can make people feel like that there may be some hostile activity in the air. So certainly during the periods of time when the hostages are being released, the skies will be clear. The airspace over those hostages will be clear. Let's just be very specific, I think, about what we learned today, Caitlin. This truce starts at...
According to Mohammed Al-Safin, who is translating Tamer Hammam's post from inside of Gaza. He says the situation is crazy, an airstrike every 15 minutes on central Gaza. Mohammed, of course, is an Al Jazeera journalist. Ya, can you guys stop? Niye burada konuşuyorsunuz abi? Bir şey anla. Kapatma, hayır, o zaman çok şey olacak. Çok sıcak olacak burası. Çünkü sizden kaçmaya çalışıyor, o yüzden burada saklanıyor. Peki. They're just like having a conversation literally next to where I'm streaming. Okay. Anyway, the situation is crazy. An airstrike every 15 minutes on central Gaza. 8 hours until the ceasefire. Israeli airstrikes are as intense as ever.
7 a.m. local Gaza time. That is 12 or midnight Eastern time, and at some point after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so 9 a.m. Eastern time, we will see the first 13 hostages. The names of those 13 hostages have now been shared with Mossad on the Israeli side, and the reciprocal arrangement, as it were, the release of Palestinian prisoners into the Palestinians' hands will happen around the same time, although Majid al-Ansari, the spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here, couldn't say exactly how many hostages would be exchanged. And then after that, every day there will be a list shared with both sides on those who will be released every day at around the same time. So let's assume for it to be around 4 o'clock in the afternoon Gazan time for 4 days. That would take us up to effectively 50 hostages, women and children. After that, Majid al-Ansari reminded us that the proposal, the deal includes an opportunity for Hamas to come good on its agreement.
Yeah. The dynamic is Palestinians die, Israelis are killed. The other dynamic also is that Israel has Palestinian prisoners, Hamas has Israeli hostages. Both of these people, whether they are Israeli or Palestinian, get killed. They do not just die, they do not just perish, and both of these people are currently being held hostage. Okay? It does not matter what the framing looks like from mainstream media. This is something that you should always remember. It also is not an Israel-Hamas war. Okay? Another thing that I saw in the news was the way that they covered it was like Israeli children were held hostage, but Palestinians are people aged under 18. Here it is from Guardian's own article. Carl Hansen caught this on Tribune Magazine. It says, Israelis have children while Palestinians have people aged 18 and younger. The hostages to be freed are women and children, and the Palestinian prisoners are also women and people aged 18 and younger. Both sides have confirmed. It absolutely is deliberate. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Do they do it on purpose? Yes. Spoke too soon? What do you mean? No. This is by design. When they write it originally, when they write it like this, I think that the people that are writing it aren't purposefully thinking like, I'm going to manipulate everyone. The people that write it like this are writing it because that is their genuine perspective. Remember, Orientalist attitudes dictate that in Pakistan, you have bribery. Which is true, you do have bribery. But in the Western world, we are not corrupt like Pakistan. We are not corrupt like these Eastern nations. We have lobbying. We have codified our corruption, so it's somehow different than the corruption that you see in other nations. Okay? China and the USSR had work camps. Smelly Roach, thank you for your wonderful contribution and feedback on this broadcast, my friend. I do smell incredible. You should ask your mom. Just stop stealing content, maybe 3head. My man is my most loyal, diehard, dedicated hate follower since January 6th. Has been clapped time and time again. MasterChef don't need you or your 40K viewers, though. Video games do. Watch Charlie's vid. Ukraine Gigahas. Have you already talked about Trump? Bro is dying, Keck W. No, I want to hear more from his. I'm going to unban him. I want to hear more his perspective. So, George Carlin talked about this specifically about Israel.
Greedy, well-fed white people have invented a language to conceal their sins. It's as simple as that. The CIA doesn't kill anybody anymore. They neutralize people. Or they depopulate the area. The government doesn't lie. It engages in disinformation. The Pentagon.
Well, yeah, we have a defense We have a Department of Defense. It's not a Department of Offense. It's not the War Department. It used to be. Now it's the Department of Defense.
Actually measures nuclear radiation in something they call sunshine units. Israeli murderers are called commandos. Arab commandos are called terrorists. Contra killers are called freedom fighters. Well, if crime fighters fight crime and firefighters fight fire, what do freedom fighters fight?
So this is framing. This is purposeful framing. It's an important part of manufacturing consent. Of course, Noam Chomsky had a wonderful take about this as well. When talking to someone from mainstream media, remember, what the fuck was it? Does anyone have that clip? Does anyone have the Chomsky clip? Directly to the face of the interviewer, he said, I don't think you personally believe that you are manipulating the public. If you just believed something else, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be standing in front of me asking these questions. Let's see. Does anyone have it? Does anyone have that? Does anyone have that clip? Yeah, the filter clip. You wouldn't be here if you believed something else. That's the one I'm looking for. Just go to Zay Twitter. You will find it 10 times over. I know, but I don't want to fucking look through it right now. Here it is.
I'm sure you're speaking for the majority of journalists who are trained, have it driven into their heads that this is a crusading, a profession, adversarial. We stand up against power, a very self-serving view.
How can you know that I'm self-censoring? How can you know that journalists are self-censoring?
I'm sure you believe everything you're saying. But what I'm saying is if you believe something different, you wouldn't be sitting where you're sitting.
Yeah. So that's what I believe as well. I think these people that are writing these are not even thinking about it. They're not even second guessing themselves. Okay? Beyond that, there's a style Bible for sure. They do have that to enforce these rules as well. However, having said that, the people that write this stuff, I don't think they recognize it. I don't think they recognize that they're writing it like this. Okay? Michael Parenti, you say what you like because they like what you say. Like, do I think Anderson Cooper is deliberately fighting against his own moral values? Like his own, internal assessment of the situation is that like Palestinians are human beings and therefore he's constantly trying to change his rhetoric, self-censor? No, he doesn't. He doesn't think that at all. That's why when he talks to the Doctors Without Borders nurse, right, that worked at Al-Shifa, he doesn't even go, do you condemn Hamas? He uses a very different line of questioning where he's like, well, did they try to rape you? Did they try to rape you? Did they try to be violent to you? They knew you were an American. You're a white woman. Do you think he's doing that because he's like, I'm going to use this opportunity to be as racist as I possibly can, despite the fact that I internally believe that like Palestinians are not psychotic rapist monsters? No, he doesn't. He doesn't think that at all. He thinks brown men, likelihood that they're violent. I'm going to do my journalistic due diligence here and ask these questions. Okay? Isn't an editor's job to catch these things? I mean, yeah, an editor's job is to catch these things and massage it in the direction of manufacturing consent.
Damn, this guy's good.